Hello. Thank you so much for being here. You can sit wherever you would like. And what color would you like to make your tag? Oh, green and purple have been our favorite. Okay. I am going to call the meeting to order at 5:00 p.m. First of all, just wanted to thank everybody so much for committing to being a part of the work. And we will be following the agenda. This is a public, a meeting that is open to the public, so anybody can come, and we are recording tonight. So if you are speaking, please don't be shy. A microphone will be passed to you just so that it can be on the recording, and your input and everything that you have to say is able to be heard, okay? So if we start with agenda item 1.1, I'd just like to start with introductions. So we will start on this side with Sarah and then come around. If you're a teacher in the district, just let us know where you teach and the grade level that you teach. And if you are a parent in the districts, let us know what school and grade level your children attend. Okay? Sarah?
I'm Sarah Schaefer. Okay, I'm. Jeez, already breaking. No, I was even holding it up earlier. Yep. I'm pushing the power button. Nothing's happening.
Okay.
Okay, I just need to hold it. I'm Sarah Schaefer, the principal at Las Brisas.
I'm Ann Hansen. I'm a special education teacher at Westar, and I teach grades 6 through 8.
Peter Smith, parent of children at, oh my God, Estrella Mountain.
That's okay. We all forget.
I'm Erin Estes. I'm also a parent of children at Estrella Mountain. Thanks for the cue. That helps. And I'm a history major, so this is right up my alley.
Yay! You have to push and hold it. The green button should come on.
My name is Stacy Ruiz. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade history at Estrella Mountain.
My name is Vicki Johnson. I teach 7th and 8th grade social studies at Rainbow Valley.
My name is Sarah Stoner. I teach 7th grade social studies at Las Brisas. I've previously taught 8th grade as well.
Devin Lusinger, Blue Horizons, 7th and 8th grade social studies.
Alex Suarez, 7th and 8th grade social studies, Freedom.
I'm Katie Jacobs. I am the EL and assessment coordinator here at Ed Services.
I'm Rebecca Willie. I'm the Ed Services coordinator here at the district.
Introduce themselves.
Yes.
I'm Tina Skelly. I have a child in 6th grade at Estrella Mountain Elementary School. I also have a degree in history and political science and a graduate degree in history and political science, double majored in undergrad, and presently working in the federal government. Also worked in the legislative staff, also worked at the White House.
We hand selected these parents. I just want you.
Loretta Zumbro, I'm the technology integration coach for the district.
Hi, Erica Daniel. I am the executive director for school effectiveness for the district.
Hi, Susanna Finn. I'm the curriculum and instruction coordinator for the district.
And I'm Natasha Camp, the assistant superintendent for educational services. If you receive crazy emails, they're from me, right? If you receive homework emails for the committee, they're from me. I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here again and committing to this work. Our social studies teachers have been without a primary resource, an updated primary resource for our 6th through 8th grade students for quite some time. And so it is, it's time to make sure that our teachers and our students have adequate resources while they are at school. So this is the work of our committee. Let me go to agenda item 1.2. On this particular agenda item, I just want to talk with you about what our purpose is and that what our overall outcomes will be for the committee and what our overall outcomes will be today for the committee. So in an agenda item at the very end, we will talk about what the timeline is, the work of our committee, and when we will be meeting next. So really the purpose is going to drive everything that we do when we are together. So what we are looking for in our purpose is really recommending resources that will support and enrich the curriculum for our students, taking into consideration varied interests, abilities, learning styles, and maturity levels of the students that we serve. We also want to ensure that we are recommending resources that will stimulate growth in factual knowledge, critical analysis of differing sides of issues, literary appreciation, aesthetic values, and yes, that's what the resources actually look like, and recognition of various societal values. And then finally, we ask that you place principle above personal opinion, and reason above prejudice in recommendation of resources of the highest quality in order to assure that we have a comprehensive collection of resources appropriate for the complete education of all students. Do you all think that you can commit to those principles and our purpose behind each of those principles, and or do you have any questions regarding those principles? We're good? All right. Our outcomes for today, we're going to review our committee commitments, which we sort of just did. We're also going to review criteria to be used to potentially evaluate our primary resources for 6th through 8th grade social studies. So that is what we will do next. We're going to move on to agenda item 1.3. Okay, please take out your handy dandy folder. For this agenda item, I've printed several sources that we're going to go through. So before we even look at the draft rubric, which is here, I'm just gonna have you set that aside. Before we look at that, I want you to be very familiar with the history, social science standards. And I also want you to be familiar with changes in those standards, probably compared to what we experienced in social studies classes in the past. So some of the main shifts are on your left-hand side, and that's printed in color for you. So let's take a look at that one first. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to partner up with someone next to you. And I'd just like you to read through these shifts. And then we're just going to do a quick shout out or popcorn of what did you notice about some of these shifts that might be different than what you either experienced or expected. Okay, so partner up. And I'm going to give you about 3 minutes and I'll call you right back together. You will learn these facts.
So they'll see the connections between what happened.
So if you're going to
Right, Loretta. Okay, I'm going to stop you and I'd like to have you share out what is something that you noticed about the shifts in the Arizona history and social science standards. Sure.
I will go first. You will see that geography is not written down explicitly anywhere, but that is part of our anchor standards, which is mentioned in the grade level anchor standards up in the top right corner.
Great. Thank you for pointing that out. Anyone else? Sarah, you guys were talking about a couple things.
I would also add with the anchor standards that a lot of the standards are written to support ELA anchor standards too, with the discussion, writing, argument, justification.
Great. Anything else you noticed? Can you pass that, Anne, down to Erin? Thank you. No problem.
I'm excited. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm excited to see the personal finance being taught. That's super exciting to me as a parent. I see that, the 4th and the 5th grade are being shifted in 2 different sections here. And I was wondering how that might work. Like I have a 3rd grader. I guess she wouldn't skip that. Would you do 2 years until it's like a grandfathered thing? Is that how that works?
Yes. So when the standards were adopted, we piloted them, and then we moved into full implementation. So we've been in full implementation 2 years? Yeah, 2 years. So anything that, like I'm thinking about Arizona history that used to be in 4th grade, but now 3rd grade has picked it up, right? We adjusted the pacing for the pilot year so that they wouldn't get it double. Great. Great connections. Anything else? Okay. Let's look at the larger document, which is these are the actual standards. So as we go through these, I'm going to reference page numbers with you, and I'm just going to get you familiar with this document because we want to ensure that the resources that we choose align to our standards that we are required to teach, and or they provide a crosswalk to our standards. So a lot of the vendors will be maybe national vendors. And so they'll say, oh, you guys are from Arizona. Arizona sometimes does their own thing. Yeah, we do. Okay. And so we will ask them to provide a crosswalk to our standards with their resources. Okay. So one thing I want you to look at, you can read the introduction tonight with your glass of water, flip. Okay. Let's look at page 3. So, one thing I think is nice about the standards is that they are developed as a storyline. So if you look at this storyline, really we start at the school level in Kinder, and then we're going all the way down, really into the overall community level and our students as citizens. Okay, so there is a storyline written with these new standards. Flip the page for me. The major core disciplines within the standards are civics, economics, geography, and history. Some of you know those as individual courses and might have experienced them as individual courses. Our students experience them integrated, right? So it's not like, we have a civics course, and then we have an economics course, and then we really have an integration of those core disciplines within our standards. Okay, flip for me to page 5. So this page really is talking about the anchor standards. There are 21 anchor standards, and those anchor standards directly connect to the core disciplines. So you'll see the core disciplines across the top: civics, economics, geography, history. Going down on each of the columns will be the anchor standards underneath each of those core disciplines. And then we have disciplinary skills and processes. So when I was a young child, when I went to social studies classes, we were learning facts. And I was required to repeat these facts. And I needed to know specific dates. And I better have gotten that date correct. Okay? Well, these standards are really pushing our children to compare and contrast, to ask questions. Yes, we have chronological timelines, right, that we want to teach them, but there is more purpose behind it. Okay? So the disciplinary skills and processes really embed some of the inquiry processes that you're going to see on this next page that we want our children to apply as they are learning the content. Any questions about that? So when I think about this, it seems like much more critical thinking, right? It's not just regurgitation of information. It definitely is inquiry based. Yep. So flip to the next page. I think this is a wonderful graphic that really just shows you the content areas and then the core anchor standards and which grade level hits upon these core anchor standards. So what I'd like you to do is really shift your eyes to 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Don't let high school mix in there because it's at the very end, but stay in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Tell me what core anchor standards we will not hit in 6th grade. Yep. C1, right? We're not going to hit that one. Where else will we not hit that? Good. And C3? Perfect. Okay, so you have passed the test. You now know how to read this graphic, right? And then you will be able to see that a majority of the anchor standards are actually hit in all of the grade levels. Okay, there's just a couple that aren't hit. Okay, flip one more for me. So I talked about the inquiry arc or inquiry skills. These are embedded in the disciplinary skills and process anchor standards. They are things like developing compelling questions, constructing supporting questions, gathering and evaluating sources. Our amazing teachers do a lot with primary and secondary sources and allowing our students the opportunity to understand the difference between the two and how do we use those primary and secondary sources in constructing an argument or a paper or an opinion. Developing claims, which directly connects with our ELA standards of claims and arguments. And then communicating conclusions, and finally, taking informed action. So we hope that when our children leave us in 8th grade, that they are able to take informed action of how will they get involved in their communities, right? How will they be active in their rights that they have as citizens of our great country.
Inquiry leads to application.
You got it, Peter. I think we have the gifted group here, right? Well, okay, I'm going to have you really flip now. Go to page 10. So in a moment, we're going to look a little bit at the standards so you can get acquainted with them. But there is some coding for the standards, so I just wanted to go over that coding with you so that you're not confused. So let's focus on the right-hand side of the page, which is 6th grade. We're going to take 6.E5.1, and we're just going to break it apart a little bit. The 6 obviously means that it's 6th grade. E5 is the standard that it's addressing, and it's actually the anchor standard. And then 1 is the standard number, okay? So this packet has all of the standards in it from 6th grade through 8th grade. And I've also copied for you, I'm going to pull out just a couple more pieces here. I've copied for you in a nutshell kind of a one pager of 6th grade, a 1-pager of 7th grade, and then a 1-pager of 8th grade. It's going to give you the storyline. So for example, 6th grade is really focused on scientific revolution and enlightenment to the present. 7th grade is focused on scientific revolution and enlightenment to the present. So it gives you kind of what the storyline is there. And then it will tell you the disciplinary skills and processes. And it will give you each one of the core standards in here. Okay. So one more time with your partner, you are going to look at these 1-pagers just so you have a really good understanding of what we are teaching in 6th, 7th, and 8th. This is the what. The how we teach it is with the resources that we use. Okay? So this is the main what. I'm going to let you visit with your partner briefly, and then we'll come right back together. Hi.
Got the 8th grade one, and do we have the 6th and 7th?
Yeah. I'm just looking at 6. And I think what's important, and they might have the teachers explain this, it's not like they go, we're going to teach these in isolation. They're putting them together to teach early civilization. And
Do you think they understand?
I think our teachers do. I don't know that everybody else on the committee. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not an isolated process at any particular one stage.
Yeah.
Geography, in 6th grade, geography is covered. We're teaching everything in geography according to deadlines. We're missing some things on economics, couple things on civics. They hit geography pretty hard in 6th grade on that chart that we had.
And I think geography is really integrated too, based upon what era or time frame that they're teaching, and then is it specific to that?
Yeah. Where are these places? Most people don't know.
Yep.
Early civilization. What is England?
Yep.
What is Prussia? All these good questions.
Yep.
Because it takes them up to Renaissance and Reformation, so up to the now I'm dating myself, the late 1500s, early 1600s.
Yep.
World religions, covered classic sins, rise and fall. A lot of stuff in 6th grade. A lot of time. And I noticed that the first chart you showed us, we're only going back now across the board to 1500 common era.
Yeah.
That's as far back as it goes.
I believe so.
Is that Hammurabi?
This one?
Yeah. No, this one.
Oh.
I looked down here.
Yeah.
Emphasizing 1500. Right, that's world history.
Yeah.
That's world history. So. Okay.
Which will be high school.
Yep. So this is the shift. This is going back 1 grade level. Do you know why they did that? Did you mention why they did that?
I don't remember why they did that.
Okay.
I think it might have been to follow the storyline better of state. Yep.
Okay.
So like, school, community, neighborhood, community, state, world.
Was this always in 8th grade down here? Civics,
I don't. Yes, but more emphasized. Yeah.
It was 7th grade back home. It was.
Yeah.
Some did 7, some did 8.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, how much more time do you need? 1 minute. Okay. Oh, Bruce does love data. Bruce and Katie could probably have a great conversation about pivot tables. Katie is into pivot tables right now. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't think Bruce has. Raise your hand if you have the sign-in sheet in front of you. Loretta had it. Oh, right behind you, Cindy. Bruce, you did not sign in.
I did.
You did sign in. Okay, Anne, would you pass me that microphone really quickly? We did have another person come in, so Bruce, you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself.
Good evening, Bruce Nowinski, assistant principal over at Blue Horizon. Thanks. Looking forward to this great committee.
And formerly social studies.
Former a lot of things.
Teacher?
Former social studies teacher in the state of Illinois. So where it's snowing 2 to 4 inches right now. Yay.
Yeah. we'll send some pictures. Okay, any noticings and wonderings about the documents that you just looked through, kind of the one-pagers of 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade?
I noticed that in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you just see a progression of rigor between the standards. They're essentially the same standard, just with a little bit of extra pizzazz as they progress through the grades. So like, for example, geography in 6th grade is nearly identical to 7th grade and nearly identical to 8th grade with just a couple little things that change.
More pizzazz. I like that. Anything else? So one of the things I think it's important to understand, and I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on the teachers, our teachers do not teach standard by standard by standard. So why don't you tell the committee how you group standards together?
Well, over the last couple of summers, we've worked together to build units to put things in a more cohesive sense. So there is a historical timeline, chronological timeline to some degree, but making sure that we pulled in the geography, the process skills, the different parts of it that fit together. Economics, we do have a few resources to pull in things that match different historical events, but that's definitely something that we want to find more. 8th grade does really focus on the personal finance though, so 6th and 7th, it's okay that it's a little bit, sketchy, but that's one of the things we want to make sure we support our teachers with, because we want to make sure that we pull that together better. It's through the units.
Perfect. And they also work hand in hand with their ELA teachers. I'll call them teammates or partners to make sure, these guys have the most amazing content. And so a lot of them are doing wonderful work with their ELA teachers so that they can provide the rich content. And then the application that the children are doing really is through, reading and writing. So really great partnership with ELA. Yes?
Is it an actual period with history teacher, or is it more like a specialist type thing?
So all of our campuses have actual classes or periods in the day that are devoted to social studies. Yes. Okay, it's time for us to look at a draft rubric. So again, we're focusing on how can we help our teachers to teach this rich content, right? We have the what, and now we're looking for the how. And again, how can we provide our students with access to great information at their fingertips? So what we have done is we've put together, this is completely a draft. Loretta is actually going to be typing in the moment while we talk through this. So I'm hoping that you will help us to group things if you see redundancy. We love for the rubric to be even shorter, right? Because once you start scoring, it gets lengthy. right? And we have at least 5 resources to score as a committee. And every one of you will score each resource. So as we go through this, I want you to look for anything that's redundant and you think, oh, we could take this number and put it together and hit it like this, okay? I also want you to think about things that might be missing, right? What did we not touch upon in the rubric that is very important to us and we don't see it here? So basic components of the rubric, first and foremost, standards alignment. Okay, if the resource is not providing us with a crosswalk to our standards, I will not even put it in front of you because that's going to just be too much work and too difficult. Okay, organization is really just about the resources that are provided. Are they organized? Are they friendly? Do you have and can you find things easily as a teacher? And also, can you access things easily as a student? Technology is included in the organization because we are a Google district. We are looking for compatibility with Google Classroom as our learning management system. And if, Google Slides and not necessarily PowerPoint that we would then have to download, upload, re-image, that's a lot of work behind the scenes, okay? So you'll see some of that information. And then finally, there's a content section, and that really gets into the nuts and bolts of the inquiry, Peter, which you had brought up, and those core anchor standards and core ideas. Okay, so I'm going to let you work with your partner first, and then we are going to come back together. Task here: redundancy. Can we get rid of any redundancy? And or are we missing anything? And then final thing, do we have enough clarity in the indicator in order to evaluate it? Okay, so if there's confusion in the indicator, let me know that. Got it? Okay. With your partners, we're going to set a timer. 7 minutes? Okay, 7 minutes. Clarity, if it's confusing or, like, is there a better way to say that? Yeah. No, that really is it. Like, is there?
Little humor here.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Materials provide a useful table of contents, glossary, supplemental pages, and indents. Okay.
Interesting introduction. What do we mean by interesting? It's a very subjective term.
Okay.
It's a bad term.
Yep.
That is a must.
Yep. Yep. I like
Material
that.
contains examples. Online resources, breadth of the content. Online resources. Everything should be compatible with our LMS, but is there any
Yep.
The focus of academic vocabulary is prevalent in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. I think that's one of the most essential ones right there. Format, hard copy, digital, friendly, and visually appealing and interesting. Do we want to steer towards one or the other, or we're open to?
I think we might be able to take out interesting. Well,
we're questioning it up here. Visually appealing and when we say user friendly and visually appealing, I think you're right.
Can we take that out? Right. Okay.
Multiple modalities. Digital electronic resources. Assessments, project-based programs. Well, that's a key too. Do we want a system that makes assessment just too ready for the teachers and takes away from their individuality and creativity on their own assessments? That's my only worry with that, is I'm just going to use if the assessments are really good, it's just going to use the book assessments and get away from their own
Yeah.
Agreed. So how important are those assessments?
I think they have to have some type of assessment. Especially if we have emergency cert teachers that, right? What did you say, Erica? Yeah.
No, it's important. I don't ever want any specific teacher for too long to just rely on what the book test says. So that's all I'm saying.
Multimodalities in the type of resources.
Yeah.
And then if that's the case,
I was wondering that too.
because the just like materials as physical and electronic resources includes assessments, maybe just use the multimodality. Okay, but wait a minute.
Or we break it apart. No.
Yeah, Q7 assessments. That makes sense.
Okay, so be ready to talk about that one. Digital materials are supported by Google Workspace. Videos can be accessed by students as well as teachers. That's important for them.
Anchor standards have well listed are evident in each grade level. Yes, there has to be clear. Resource includes access to a variety of sources. Resource includes access to a variety of sources.
So I actually
on primary, but
so I actually put this in, and I don't know that it's appropriate.
Why?
But because I felt like we didn't have something that said something about primary and secondary sources. And I'm like, okay, is that how we say that? Does it say?
Resource includes access to a variety of sources. I think it's fine.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize primary. It's so important, and especially junior high students, to start focusing on primary sources.
Okay.
Real world applications are relevant to the student. But what is that? What do we mean by real world applications? That's a very general, broad term. What do we mean?
Yep. I agree.
Non-text, advanced graph pictures are accurate, authentic, and well integrated. Yeah, that's just visually appealing. I don't even know if I need that one.
Okay.
Well, let's go back. Something here for you that said
Visually appealing. Right here, format.
Q6.
Yeah.
I think Q6 and
Okay.
Q13 are a little bit redundant. I think we can combine those.
Yep.
Lesson tasks are disciplinary whenever. Better be.
Or do we just want to say lesson tasks are interdisciplinary?
Yes. I hope they always are.
Right.
Materials have a balanced representation. Yeah, that goes with tasks apply to the diversity of students and their abilities. So, do we want to throw differentiation in there, or we like the way it says? No, diversity of students and their abilities. That's a great way to say it.
And then I just put these guys in parentheses, right?
Q13 and
Material.
Q4. No,
Material provides access to or demonstrates concepts in multiple ways. Okay, how much more time? And I'm not rushing you. You guys are good? Oh, you guys good? Woo! Okay, let's get ready. negotiate here. Where are the microphones? The Sarahs have a microphone. Okay. So we'll go through each question. Question number 1, unfortunately, is not negotiable. Okay? Yeah. Question 2. Okay, I'm liking this. Okay, moving on. Question 3.
We question the word interesting.
Okay, wait.
Who is the introduction for?
Okay.
Is it for the teacher or for the kid?
Do you have a proposed adjustment?
Take out interesting and just leave it introductions.
Take out interesting. Teacher edition contains introductions.
Because we said some teachers may not have the background knowledge for certain content things, especially newer teachers coming in, that there may be background information that would be helpful them to have in order to thoroughly teach the content for the students.
Could we say comprehensive introductions?
I don't want to read a college essay on the topic, but yes.
But we are including prerequisite skills.
Mhm.
Yes, you're not saying take that out. Okay, so take out interesting. Teacher edition contains introductions and a list of prerequisite skills for each chapter.
We could put comprehensive. We could put
that could be the
background
exceeds.
introduction, background information, overview.
Overview. Okay. Teacher edition contains
Content
overview and a list of prerequisite skills for each chapter.
Because if it's too long of an introduction, it won't get read either.
Okay. Everybody agree with that? Yeah. Okay. Did you adjust? Okay, she's adjusting in time. Like, can you just start going like this when you make an adjustment? Okay. Number 4. Devin, microphone.
We discussed Q4 and Q7 possibly being combined.
Ooh, we got people over here agreeing with you. What is your proposal? You guys have a proposal? Yeah. Would you like to hear the side of the table's proposal? Okay. Erica and Susanna, go ahead.
On Q4, we want all the information talking about materials as the topic. And we're going to add that material has the digital/electronic resources instead of online resources. We wanted to switch to digital and electronic up there in Q4. And then Q7 would stick strictly to assessment.
Okay, so would it say materials contain examples, explanations, digital, electronic resources?
Yeah.
Y'all are gonna get right.
We're taking out the first part where
So-
the topic is materials have, so we're just going to focus on assessment.
It would start with program includes a variety of assessments, e.g. project-based and all the stuff in the parentheses.
I like to think of Q7 as like all the bonus goodies. So what else does it provide for us? Where Q4 is the bare minimum that I think it needs to meet. But I do feel that it could all be put into one. Just mush it together.
Put it all together?
I second that.
Okay. I have to say, I have seen over my many decades of teaching, there's been stuff that has great resources, but then all the tests are multiple choice or whatever. And I really wish the assessments could have been a little bit more well thought out. So I had questioned whether they could be combined or not, but I do see the point, and I think there is validity in keeping assessments as a specific, let's make sure those are good too, and not just an afterthought of the material. Yeah, variety. Right.
Okay. I'm going to need some help with this. Let's go to question 4 first. Yes. With a microphone.
Q17 might be an option to dump into that whole little conversation because it might be foldable in there, if that makes any sense.
To me, 17 is the content for students. Well, I guess I sort of.
Can I think? I hadn't thought about it till you said that, so I'm processing aloud. But when I read 17, I'm thinking when it talks about access to the content, that's more like my students and all their different ability levels, whether it's language, whether, you know, whatever's going on. They have different ways to tap into that, where some kids are ready to dive deep into this heavy duty and other kids have more of a surface level. So the first part is more the actual format, whereas, you know, whether it's online or whether it's pictures or whatever it is, the activities. But this is more like scaffolded content is how I look at 17. I could be wrong, but that's just how I interpret some.
The multiple modalities, the project-based learning, that's like in Q7, formative, summative, that all ties with me mentally into material to provide access to or demonstrate concepts in multiple ways.
Could we make it concepts and assessment?
I'm wondering if we move assessments out of organization and put it in content. So just, right? So take out 7 altogether. We're moving it with only assessment language, but we're putting it in the content. It's not actually a yes, it is a material, but we want it directly connected to the content.
Was there one in here that specifically addressed assessments anyways? Because that would
Only that one. Only number 7.
I'm even thinking about accessing the introduction of content, you know, with the different groups. So I'm not disagreeing with that, but I don't see 17 as focused on assessment. To me, that's instruction.
Yeah.
What we're saying is moving 7 completely out under organization and moving it to content so that the assessment would be under content instead of organization.
Correct. Let's just make it question 18.
Yeah.
Okay, then yes.
Yes.
Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Okay, so you with me?
Well, we have to go back to question 4.
Okay, question 4.
I have all that.
Good. Question 4 currently reads, material contains examples, explanations, and digital/electronic resources to the depth and breadth of the content.
I would add in multimodalities to the depth and breadth.
Oh.
That's the one phrase from 7 that's missing.
Yep. Material contains examples.
Explanations and/or digital electronic resources in multiple modalities to the depth and breadth.
Can everybody live with that? Yeah?
Can you elaborate on what you mean by multiple modalities?
Sure. It says physical and digital electronic resources includes assessments, which we're moving, but project-based, formative, summative, performance-based tasks. All of those are the multi modalities that we're referencing.
So does that actually go with the digital and electronic, or does that go with the assessments?
No, you could have multiple modalities in both tasks and lesson work as well as the assessment. So the modalities is the outcomes of what you want them, not necessarily is it paper or electronic. So I think that project-based, formative, all that still kind of fits under modalities, but that needs to be in both places, in both materials and in assessment, because you can't teach it one way and assess it the other. I mean, you want to have the opportunity to assess the same way that the students worked.
Are we okay with number 4?
Yeah.
Loretta made it bigger for you.
Thank you.
As you're squinting, sorry, I didn't get the cue, guys. Okay, can we move on?
Yes.
Okay, question 5. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, good one, going fast. Question 6.
Actually, so we had a good question regarding format. When we're talking format, are we talking, because it says hard copy digital, are we talking like class sets of books and having a digital copy? Because class sets may not be the most economic or efficient way to give this information based on what our books look like.
And I'm also the person that is for a hard copy because of the different learning styles, because of the ability to take them away from technology, which is something I have been encouraging. But having it available in both so they could potentially access it at home would be a great opportunity.
And the reality of Chromebooks that are temporarily needing to be charged or under repair or et cetera, et cetera.
As a parent, I appreciate books, and our kids are not getting their noses in them as much. So I really like a hard copy. I mean, I'm trying to get away from the screen time, and then now they're bringing home computers from school, and I'm like, darn it, they're on a screen all the time. So thank you.
Sorry. There you go. So from the high school perspective, we have 1-to-1 at this point. Our freshmen are struggling badly with computer etiquette, how to properly utilize it. So if the elementary districts can, no, I don't just mean accessing things that they shouldn't be accessing. I mean productivity abilities, things of that nature. They are not getting enough of that at the lower grade levels, period. And it's not consistent. And I'm not saying it's specifically this district or you as an individual teacher. I've been doing it for 12 years now in high school. Oh, yeah. And I can tell you just across the board, it's been a consistent problem with freshmen. And then we have to break them in by the time they're seniors. And even by then, they're having issues using Microsoft Word, email, all the productivity suites that they're going to end up using later on. They're mighty fine at copying and pasting pictures onto a PowerPoint. Excellent at that. They are fantastic, but with the productivity side. So I'm not saying abandon books. No, I think that you should absolutely have access to physical books in your classroom. So that way, if you do have a student who learns better in that way, go for it. Or if somebody's computer has malfunctioned for the day, you have that available for the day. If somebody's computer has malfunctioning issues, you have those as backups.
Okay, I'm just going to throw in the special ed perspective, and you guys are probably going to get sick of me talking about this, but it's very important. So our kids are very different learners, and we have a lot of students where we've, and especially through COVID, the online learning was a disaster for most of them. The ADHD, it's crazy huge. They're on that computer and they're 10 seconds and they're somewhere else. And, we have no way to lock them down, keep them on track, keep them on the sites they need to be. We often have to print copies for our students out of the Google Classroom so that our students can access them. We have a lot of students who don't have computer access or internet at home. And so these are the same kids who can't complete their work in the classroom, and then they go home and they don't have access to complete that work at home. So I think that's something that we have to really consider. We have to have the digital resources. We do need that, but we do also need that secondary modality for those kids because it's just, it's tough for them.
So I think I'm actually hearing some blended, right? It's a little bit of blended. So I will tell you the resources that you will be looking at next week. Not next week, it's Thanksgiving. I gave you that week off though.
Oh, thank you.
I know. But the week after, majority of the resources come with the option of both. So you will be looking at online. That will be your first homework, is to look at all electronic, and then you'll move into the physical copies.
So I might be jumping ahead, but do we know if some of these companies provide it at an additional cost? I mean, economically, yes.
Look at cost as well.
We're looking at the necessity of having at least a class set of books to be able to use for the purposes of, but we also, okay.
Okay, just 3 quick things. As a parent, I just want to tell you that we're likely only going to get one class set, not one for every one of my students. I've got 90 8th graders. I don't need to have 90 books So financially, that may be a feature that they could take home, but it won't be theirs. With the technology aspect, back in the day before one-to-one, we had a special area that was technology or computer lab, where they learned specifically how to use Excel spreadsheets, how to do a Google Doc or Word or whatever. But now that we've got one-to-one, all of a sudden we have the assumption that they have these skills, or that content area teachers have the time to set aside their content to teach technology. So as a parent, I might recommend that you raise that question of, is that something that we might bring back as specials, or have a teacher that knows how to do that or the time to do so. So that's just a thought.
Stay on topic.
Right, and can I just talk about the audio? For SPED, if we're looking for an online book, it has to have the read aloud function for the kids who do not have that ability. Now I'm done.
Okay, so going back to question 6, I think you had something to say about question 6.
I did. We looked at question 6 and we looked at question 13 and saw a lot of redundancy there as well. Question 6, especially in terms of visually appealing and interesting. Again, I saw that interesting word, wasn't a big fan of that. Visually appealing, you look at 13, non-text content, maps, graphs, pictures, all things that are visual, are accurate, authentic, and well integrated into the instruction material. We had some hope that maybe we could take some little bits and pieces from 6 and 13 and then combine them into one that stresses visually appealing types of things like charts and graphs, etc.
We interpret it more the way the actual product looked. And like going back to grade school, remember when you're like, oh, we get to start the new reading book, which has the dolphins on the front. And you were so excited. And so like I think about last year, 2 years ago, when we piloted Discovery Ed, and it was very visually appealing for the kids to log into. And so I think there is a component now, especially in our day and age, it does need to be attractive for the kids. And the things inside the book need to be well embedded and correct. And so that's where we saw the difference.
I'm also wondering, do we need the words "and interesting"? Like, is the format user-friendly and visually appealing? Done. Yeah, I agree. It is subjective.
And of high quality, meaning they're sturdy and they're not easily damaged.
Format is user-friendly and visually appealing. Do we have age appropriate somewhere? No, we do not.
Or grade level appropriate.
Yeah, that's not it's Q9. Content. Appropriate to the grade level. Okay. Are we okay with 6 the way it is? Yeah. I mean, the way it is being adjusted. Take away and yeah. Okay. Got it. We have no 7, so now we have a new 7, which is 8 on your paper. Yes? Anything about 8?
We emphasize that the video part is actually very important, because stuff that's YouTube embedded, we can't access. Edpuzzle, they can no longer get. So even though it's in stuff that we have adopted, like the next gen resources, so we have to be very careful of that.
Why is here?
Does the district IT department have the ability to list certain links or give them a list of the actual addresses?
Yes, we do.
Well,
we block YouTube. I didn't know about Edpuzzle, so I have to look deeper into Edpuzzle.
Okay, so it's just a blanket block of YouTube?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A lot of times the videos on Edpuzzle are in YouTube, which causes.
Okay. Am I going too fast? No. Okay. Question 8, which is your question 9. Okay. We adjusted. Materials focus on the knowledge, skills, and abilities appropriate to the grade level.
I just have a question, just for the format. Come on.
Format.
Can we connect all the material questions that we're looking for, question 9, question 15, question 17 together, so then when we're looking at that aspect, it's
You mean cluster?
cluster it together, yeah.
It is a lot easier. Yeah. Okay, I understand that. Do you understand what she's saying? 9, 15, and 17, they're just clustered together for an easier score. Let's go back to 9, which is the new 8. Devin.
We brought up the fact that Q9 and Q16. So how are we meeting both? If it is written at a grade level ability, how are we able to differentiate and make it accessible for our Q16 cohorts or groups with EL gifted special education? How easy is that going to be? And is it scaffolded within?
Does that make sense? Yes.
Yes, are you sure?
Yeah, I actually think it's the word abilities. So we need to adjust the word abilities if we're already hitting, if we have diversity of differentiation. So materials focus on the knowledge, skills, and
Can we put reading levels? Sorry.
Instead of grade level, reading level.
Because for an ELA book, it is focused on 6th grade reading level, 7th grade reading level. But when you looked at, for like the example, the science test, some of those questions years ago, you're like, have these people even ever met a child before? Like the phrasing of the questions, especially for the contents areas of science and social studies, are focused on content and not accessibility by the reading level. So can we look at the readability level of these things as well? But I don't know where to put that in.
And coming to us, our kids are very used to getting readings at their age appropriate level or their Lexile level through Achieve. So I think it may be something that startles them if they can't access this book easily. So I think that is definitely something to consider.
So we're hoping for a tool that will adjust the Lexile level within the...
something to make it,
Or people that wrote it that have a clue.
Something to make it, whether it's digital or in physical copy, that we can easily differentiate without having to put hours of work in. And
So we actually had that ability with Discovery Ed when we were using it. And as a teacher, what I found is going through and manipulating it and for individual students when I have, 180 7th and 8th graders back then, like it was just way too difficult to meet all of those different levels. So I just wanted to add that little piece in there.
okay, let's go back to 8. I think it's the word ability. Would you like me to change this word to? Delete the word? Grade level? Well, I think. Is it concepts? Materials focus on the knowledge, skills, and concepts appropriate to the grade level?
No, because that's concept is the standard.
Well, it is, yeah, I mean.
But that's question 10.
I'm just wondering, is it question 9 we want to revise, or is it question 16 where we want that differentiation so that we have access?
Is there a difference between 9? I think there is a difference between 9 and 16.
I think so, because when we adopted other things like math, for example, it focused a lot on the gifted, but there was nothing for EL. So I think it's really important to have 16 there that we can check off all those separate things in addition to, because if you combine them, then you're really letting.
I do think they're separate, but you want the differentiation in the access to the material right now, the ability, right? Reading levels. I see that as another differentiation you may need.
Okay, I think all I meant with the reading level was that it's not written at high school or college age just because it's the content, that it's actually grade level reading appropriate, not leveled necessarily, but just appropriate for middle school.
Yes.
yeah, we were just wondering, and our questions were, how can we meet both? How can we assure we're meeting our kids where they need to be?
Okay, I'm trying it here.
So do we want to maybe say developmentally appropriate? Is that what we're trying to get to?
Let me ask you if this meets your needs. Hold on 1 second, Loretta. Materials focus on the knowledge and skills that are appropriate to the grade level.
Yeah. Fine.
Yes?
Yes.
Erin?
I just.
If you think that is redundant to the standards.
I think yes, it's redundant if you read it plain. If I think of the through the lens of in these standards, there's very rarely a time where they say teach this. So you can really pick whatever you want in that time frame or that concept to teach. So if the resource is choosing a text that isn't at grade level or appropriate or interesting, that's still separate than the standards, because it could be a billion. And so I think that's important. Is that really what, to me, that's why it's different than the accommodation one or the differentiation one.
Yes.
It's an interest-based rather than a student support-based, right? Okay.
Sort of. Kind of, sort of. Is it potentially something we can put into organization? I think we should move on.
Yeah.
And we're gonna come back to that. But I think I think we got what you wanted out. Yes. Yes? Okay. 15.
15.
What happened?
We're gonna merge them.
We're on 10.
Sorry. Hold on a second. We moved.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
What number is it?
No, they just moved it up next to the other.
They're combining those.
They're
Can
just
we
reordering.
can we jump down to 15?
Yeah.
Okay. 15 materials have a balanced representation of diverse cultures.
Yes.
You would like to say something about that?
No, I bet thumbs
Oh, thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, great.
We added the word comprehensive. We like that word comprehensive.
So comprehensive, diverse cultures?
Materials have a
represented the full story of the if possible.
What is your proposed language, Rebecca?
I just wrote comprehensive next to it.
Instead of balanced.
Materials have a balanced and comprehensive representation of diverse cultures. Is that what you're?
Because we were saying, depending on the author, it might have a, how do you say this, weight perspective.
We were concerned about bias. Tina, go ahead.
We discussed bias in the author's viewpoint, and so when we thought of balanced, it could be balanced towards someone's viewpoint as opposed to a comprehensive picture of that time period or the war or whatever. I'm not a social studies expert, so help me out.
Materials have an unbiased and balanced representation of diversity.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can't really have the word unbiased in a history book because there's always bias and perspective that play into history. There's no like record of history that is exactly what happened without being written from a different perspective. I don't know. I would love to hear like an explanation of what you mean by comprehensive.
I think given how much detail there is in every single topic, you're going to have a very, very hard time with the amount of time you have available to achieve any kind of comprehensive anything in history. There's just simply not enough time for any subject, period. Maybe endeavor to be unbiased, or I don't know.
Shall we stay with balance?
Yes. Yes.
One of our anchor standards is to address and honor multiple perspectives. So I know I was pushing for this. When we talked about balanced, it was something that we do see those multiple perspectives represented, but knowing the time that we're given, we cannot represent everybody.
And that being said, we did talk about, and we have talked a lot about where we find bias and unbiased information. And that is something that I'm not necessarily sure that we need to have it in here, as long as the teachers are cognizant of that is what we are looking for, so that our kids are getting all of the stuff.
Are we okay with balance?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm moving to question 17, which is even farther down your paper, but we moved it up here because we were talking about material. Okay. Material provides access to or demonstrates concepts in multiple ways. Everybody was good with that?
Parentheses, like this. What kind of multiple ways?
Okay.
Picture, text, video.
Wouldn't that fit into question 16 then with the
No.
To be honest, when I see that though, I'm thinking of it more as a math teacher, how I would approach stuff, and kids need entrance into problem solving in different ways. And I'm not sure that, I'm not saying it's not relevant to social studies, but it's a lot more critical in math, for example, to have different levels of entry into a problem solving. So I'm just wondering if we actually have addressed it within 16, because there isn't as much necessary as there is in math with that multiple entrance into the content. Does that make sense for math people? Are you tracking with what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
For me, from a social studies perspective, this is, I provided them in a verbal lecture, I provided them in PDF and written form, and then I had them go and look at this news article on this topic, and then they went and they put together, or they watched this one video over here on this topic. So for me, that's what 17 means.
When you're talking about that, is that provided by the book or is that provided by the teacher? That, you know, and so some of that stuff that you just spoke to is provided by us, not necessarily a book, because it's not going to have everything. So whereas, I mean, I completely agree with you, but now I'm thinking that maybe we can just eliminate it.
Yeah.
I was trying to merge it earlier.
Yeah.
But eliminate was fine.
Okay, so we have a proposal on the table to eliminate question 17.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea how many questions are on here anymore. Okay, question 10. We are so out of order. Okay, question 10 addresses anchor standards. Anchor standards, and then they're listed: civics, economics, geography, history, and disciplinary skill processes are evident at each grade level throughout the resource.
Okay, I might need help because when I read the standards, when I read this, I think those are the standards. And so I understand there's a crosswalk at the beginning. But to me, this is almost a hard stop question in that if it doesn't meet or exceed, why would we continue? Because, and I say that because yes, there's been a crosswalk for other resources we've had, but that doesn't mean we don't go into the book where it says, oh, this should be main idea, and they're asking, you know, a question completely unrelated to main idea. But they say it's main idea. So I just wonder if is this question about is the standard really in there? And is it really asking disciplinary skills and processes, or is it just teaching facts and asking questions? Because if it's not, then why would we even score the rest?
Would it be appropriate to move to the green section? We said green. We said Q1 is we're not moving past it unless Q1 is solid.
She already said Q1 is solid.
Exactly. So it is Q10 as important or as solid so that we make it a standards alignment question? That we're not pass and go unless these two are hits.
Who has the mic? Oh. So one option on the table is to move Q10, whoopsie, to Q2, right here. Okay. Sarah?
Okay. So I am going to piggyback off what Sarah said. And so when you look at social studies standards, if you haven't had a time to actually look at them, they're no longer like you learn in 1492 Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. You don't learn that anymore. Our standards are more like, let's see, explain how revolutions and other changes in government impact citizens' rights. But when you think about a textbook and you think about a resource, what are they giving us? They're giving us facts, right? So then you have to be really subjective as to what part these kids are even reading to see if it checks off said standard. Because that was just like an easy one. If you actually go and you read these, like, they're a lot harder than that. They're very like open to interpretation. And really, when you look in any of our social studies classes, when you watch any of our lessons, you can look at these and pick like, oh, she did that, or he did that, and this one, and this one, and this one. You hit multiple standards in one lesson while teaching the facts, right? So then what Sarah was like, well, if the textbook, and of course if that's what it's gonna do, right? That's gonna be our backbone, I guess, or whatever. But is that what we want?
I think from a assessing if the textbook meets the expectation, it's pretty easy to meet Q10 or Q2 or whatever the heck that number is now. Because as we've noted, they're incredibly vague and they're broad, and you can pretty much plug any era in history into one of these. So when we're looking at the book, it's going to be easy to check that off as a meets or exceeds, because it's a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Sorry.
Are you okay leaving it right under the first one? So all we did is we moved it out of content and we put it right up here to kind of buddy up with standards alignment. Yes. Okay. What number are we on now, my friends? 11. Resource includes access to a variety of sources, primary and secondary. 12. You don't want to stay here all night. You got. Okay, we're almost done. 12. Real world applications are relevant to the students.
I would like some clarification on what this looks like in social studies.
We had a question too.
Because this sounds a lot like science-based to me. I feel like we could do without it. Really, the only one that we talked about where we could find a example of was econ and personal finance. So, and civics. That is where we could add that. But looking at 6th grade or 7th grade, I feel like we just don't need this necessarily.
Just going to say the standard write an opinion statement, though, is whether we should have school uniforms or something. And that's not relevant because none of our schools have uniforms. So they really don't care. And those essays generally are rather lousy because it's not something that's relevant or applicable. So I think any of the civics or taking action kind of things ought to be not some nebulous or far-fetched whatever, but something that actually seems realistic and relevant to the students. That's what I think of with relevance.
It's going to be up to the teacher to be able to determine what's relevant to their student population, because that book is not going to be able to apply to every single student in every single classroom. So yeah, it's I would get rid of it.
That's been the one for 25 years. Kids have written the same thing.
Oh no, I'm not.
You know what I mean? That's been the same.
Do we keep it or get rid of it? Okay, show me. We keep or we get rid of. Or you can live with whatever. Okay. We're getting rid of it. Okay. 13. Non-text content. Maps, graphs, pictures, etc. are accurate, authentic, and well integrated into the instructional material.
I have something to say for this one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go, Erin.
So I either propose that we make a separate question for the accuracy of facts that are not non-text, or we add regular text in there so that, I mean, you know, the accuracy of the text also.
Text or non-text content?
And all content.
All content.
Yeah, not just non-text, but also the actual written word.
Okay, Sarah has something.
Logistically, I don't have time to be checking graphs if they're correct. So I'm going to choose to believe this is correct, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all have time to be checking this.
Well, just from, you know, I was homeschooling the last couple of years and I got some texts from the curriculum I chose and I was reading through it and I was like, this is not even right. You know, I mean, I look at the map and I'm like, well, this isn't right either. You know, I'm like, well, I'm not teaching my kids this because it's not right. So I don't know, it's got to be accurate in order to be taught.
A brief survey reveals
yeah,
all
just
content.
right, yeah, just like
accurate, authentic,
an overview or.
And unfortunately, the day that we roll these out into the classroom, they won't be accurate. It is just like driving a car off the lot. So they will be as accurate as they possibly can be, but in history, things change. So,
She gets the mic back. Thank you. Where's the
I had blatant errors in the text that I was using, and it was really frustrating to me. I mean, like, cities were not in the right state. I'm like, this is, what are you doing, you know? And I had obvious facts that were incorrect, and I'm like, no, this is not going to change. I don't care what your opinion is later, if, you know, it's going to, later, but it's like, no, there's no cheese on the moon, okay?
actual facts? Devin?
Yes, knowing that they're going to be outdated, I think it's our job as the teachers to assess that and address it, which we do all the time. I have a map in my room that we talk about when it was made and why it is not accurate these days. So I think we just have to use our best judgment here to know that it's not going to be 100%.
The only reason why I say keep it is because how much is this going to cost? Like $3 or $4 million? And then we're going to be on the hook for 5 to 6 years?
Yes.
So I would say at least a survey, a brief one.
The major things need to be there. But we have to give some grace to the things that are often changing.
Like Jamestown is the first permanent English settlement, not Plymouth, okay?
Okay, oh, are you speaking? Okay. Is this okay what we changed it to? I didn't put all content, I just said content. Maps, graphs, pictures, etc. is accurate, authentic, and well integrated into the instructional material. Yes? Okay, question 14. Lessons/tasks are interdisciplinary when appropriate. Are you okay with the words when appropriate? Okay. 16, I think we killed. Are we changing?
I'd like to talk about it a little.
Okay. No, I'm joking.
No, we have touched 16.
We have touched 16, haven't we? Yeah. Tasks apply to the diversity of students and their abilities. This is where your differentiation comes in. EL, gifted, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we covered it.
Not deleted it.
Okay, we're not deleting it. We've talked about it already.
Cancel culture.
Okay. Last, is this the last question? Yes. Question 7, which is now 16.
Which is actually 15 plus 14, what am I?
And it does need to get looked up. At least somebody's following. This needs to go up.
Numbers like historical facts are subjective.
7 is going to go up with 9 and 10.
Well, let's fix it first.
Okay. Material and needs Mike.
And this is kind of a question to my gen ed teachers too. So when we're talking about assessment specifically, a lot of times our SPED population will have accommodations for, reduced questions, things like that, easier language. And so more often than not, we see that tests are given, everybody gets the same test regardless of abilities, and then gen ed teachers will grade them differently after the test is given. So, and I don't even know if this is possible, if any of these people do this, but it feels like if we could have assessments embedded that are also accommodated already, that are maybe differentiated assessments, where you guys aren't spending all that time, and then our students aren't taking these tests that are very hard for them. We're not changing the content, just how we're asking those questions. And that saves a lot of time for teachers, where we're not having to do all these different things. And then our kids don't have to take these tests where they take one look at it and they're like, forget it. I can't do this. I'm not going to even try. So then they get a test that's at their level, that they can feel successful and not get some adjusted grade based on their expected ability. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Isn't that part of the IEP accommodations that?
Isn't that part of the IEP process that when you create the accommodations with the gen ed classroom teacher, that could be part of the design or modifying the design of the test?
Yes,
What-
and that takes a lot of work. Sorry, that's a lot of work.
Okay.
But what I heard you saying was if we had tests that were already done, asking the same questions in a different way or less, so that we didn't have to do that all the time, because
Okay.
9 times out of 10, we're making it, or our resource teacher is making it.
I think that would be a valuable aspect of any potential.
That would be.
I'm wondering if that's an exceeds. I don't know that we'll find it, but that may be an exceeds.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
this question
Or
needs
could it be editable? I mean, do they have things that it's like a Word doc
Okay.
that we could go cut them out? Because going with the whiteout and copy and paste.
Okay, so this question, we actually were needing to change it to focus only on assessments. Okay, so What are you proposing, Susanna?
It was program includes a variety of assessments, and then just whatever is in the parentheses, just leave it.
Or we could say scaffolded assessments. That could be another choice.
I think that's gonna go in the choice. So project-based, formative, summative, performance-based tasks.
Scaffolded options. Something like that. Editable. Scaffolded options or editable.
Wow. Yes?
Yes.
What do you guys think? Okay. We have 2 minutes. And I will be sticking to okay. Loretta is going to renumber these with you're gonna renumber these. Okay. Loretta, renumber these because you're gonna walk away with some in hand. Let's go to okay, let me just stop and say great work. Very good job not being mean to anyone.
Yeah.
Yet.
Either. We're history majors.
Okay, let's go to the upcoming. Let's go to the upcoming social studies meetings, the committee meetings. So, you will receive an email from me. It will be the beginning of your homework. Everything will be put on a one-pager, which will provide you electronic access to all 5 of the resources. I'm requesting that you start scoring from the electronic first, and then you finish scoring on the 30th when we meet again with the physical copies. So the next time that we meet, 29. Somebody check that to make sure that's true. Okay, good. So the next time we meet is on the 29th. We'll be in here. The resources will be spread out in this room. I'll start with just a basic, let's start the meeting, and then score. Everybody needs to score all resources, okay? So that's why you will have a little bit of homework first. I am also proposing that the potential vendor showcase, if we choose 2 top vendors by the next time that we meet, I'm actually wondering, and this would be from teacher, really looking at teacher perspective here, we can have the showcase of the vendors prior to break, and then you could potentially start your pilot. However, I am wondering how much we're going to forget over break, and do we actually not want the showcases and give our vendors a little bit more time to be until after break?
So when we are looking at putting this to the board, when are we wanting to do that? I mean, sooner than later, yes.
It does not go to the board for adoption until February.
So, and we're looking at 3 weeks of piloting?
You will pilot for 15 to 20 days each product. Yeah, so I think I have it scheduled out for February 27th. You will only narrow
Pilot
to 2.
Okay.
5. So we'll go from 5 to 2. My only question here is, do you want the training and the vendor showcase to be before or after break? I mean, I think it just depends on your headspace, right?
Is there enough time to have that training and have 6 weeks?
Yes.
And come together and make a decision before we go to the board?
Yeah.
Because I would almost rather simmer on it over Christmas break, even though we don't work over Christmas break.
I have a timeline here for you already set
in the
out.
back of my brain to do it before break, but
It still has to sit for 60 days, regardless.
Right. But I'm just saying the training aspect of it. I don't know that I could have a training on a Monday and jump into teaching it on Wednesday. Like my brain just doesn't work that way. It needs time to just kind of sit on it, process if I'm going to use it well for that 3 weeks.
Okay. So we'll keep it I think I hear it's leaning, keep it with the original dates. Okay. That is going to depend if we can come to agreement not next week, week after on top 2. Yeah. If we can't come to agreement, we meet again. Makes sense? So that will shift our dates, our tentative based on our efficiency of work.
Is agreement on top 2 going to be based on raw score only?
No. Question.
So do we know what, I'm assuming it's Buckeye Union that we feed into, right?
We do.
Okay. Do we know what their history systems are? Because this is cherry on top thought process.
Sure.
If you can align them with what they're using to make the transition to freshman year easier.
Or how soon are they coming up into an adoption that we don't want to commit to something and they adopt next year?
Perfect.
Do you have something you want to say?
I did, but the train derailed, so.
Okay. All right. I will just say we want to choose the best product for our students. I can do a little bit of research on that, but we are tasked with the best for our students, regardless. Right? Okay. Any further questions about timeline? You should have all received invites to all of these dates. Cindy and I will double check. Good. And with that, I will adjourn